In the year 1959, a group of professional hikers went out on an expedition across mountainous region of western Russia. This group is not only experienced in expeditions, also familiar with Siberian wilderness. But this journey would prove to be their last and final. Despite a criminal investigation, photographs, and journal entries, this case remained unsolved after more than half a century. This is the famous Dyatlov Pass mystery. Let's decode this. Before proceeding into the story, I want to remind you that nature is not a forgiving thing. Even though we have moved around the curve, still every now and then nature shows its true form and keep us humbled. Even though some scientists believe that they have answer for this mystery, we still don't have answer for all the questions and nobody knows what happened that particular day. Before getting into the story, it would be really helpful if you like and subscribe and help our small channel. Let's get into the story. A group of 10 hikers, mostly students at the Polytechnic Institute from Western Russia, set off on a winter break to hike the Ural Mountains, which is 2,500 kilometers range. Let me put it in a different perspective, so easy for you to understand. This is just one mountain which separates the Europe from Asia. This expedition was led by 23-year-old Igor. He is an experienced mountaineer who knows how to handle himself in an insane Russian temperature, what they call just as a winter. Every other person in that group is a grade 2 hiker, meaning they haven't climbed any treacherous or unforgiving mountains like Himalayas and so on. Also, they had a ski tour experience. Basically, what I mean to say is they are not just like you and me taking the trip for fun. They are professionals. They plan to have the trip for 3 weeks, reaching a Totten mountain, which is a peak in the western Russia. Also, this is not too far south of Arctic Circle. But none of them came back alive. Well, except one. An economic student named Yudin had to turn back due to pain in his joint. Igor, the team leader, promised him to send a telegram once they are back in the reach of civilization. But this never happened. It wasn't uncommon for these kind of trips to take a little longer than expected. But a week later, there are still no news. Families called for a search and group of students went to that particular region to look for the missing hikers, which was followed by the police and then the military came in. On 26th February, they found the hikers' tent on the slopes of Klochakul, literally means Death Mountain. The tent was cut open from inside out. 9 set of footprints led down them to a forest about 1.5 kilometers from that particular tent. Some prints showed wearing shoes and some had only socks. This loosely translated, they were in a hurry to escape from the tent. At the end of the forest, they found 2 dead bodies lying next to the remains of a small campfire, Yuri Torchenko and Yuri Prevenchenko. Both these men were shoeless and dressed only in their underwear. Both of their hands and feet were badly burnt, and some of his own knuckles were bitten by him. Again, it would take another 3 months for them to find the remaining bodies due to harsh weather and snow. 3 bodies were discovered between the edge of the forest and the tent. These 3 bodies raised a lot of questions. Both Igor and Slobodan had a small fracture in their skull. Other body had a bruise along the right side of the body as if she is being hit by some cylindrical object. But one thing was clear, they have been trying to climb uphill back to the tent. Other four bodies have been found only in the month of May. They were discovered on the other sides of the wood. A legal inquiry has been initiated once the first 5 bodies were discovered, and they determined that all of these hikers had died from hypothermia. But this was about to change when the last 4 bodies were examined. 2 of them had a major chest fracture, while the other had major skull damage. They were also found wearing an odd mix of gloves. Some of the body's foot were wrapped in a piece of trousers that belonged to Yuri, the first dead body. One of the men found next to campfire was found wearing second body's coat and gloves. And these guys were missing their tongue, eyes, and part of the lips were torn off. Zolotayev was missing his eyeball and had a wound behind his ear, an oddly twisted neck. He also had no eyebrows. The big question was, what had really happened there? This particular group never had any alcohol. All they had was just a flask of medical alcohol. So this theory was out of the question. There were 75 theories about the circumstance that led to their death. Some even went beyond and blamed alien Eddie's hand in the death. But one thing was clear. KGB was heavily involved in the cover-up. A local prosecutor named Ivanov was the first person to investigate the case and led the official inquiry in 1959, and he was extremely focused on the investigation. Later, he suddenly withdrew his interest and closed the case as pressure from his superior. He never spoke about any of this until 1990. He admitted that he was silenced by the authorities from KGB and asked to suppress the fiery object in the sky and the strange autopsy result on glass pour bodies. This autopsy was done in a medical facility near a local town, and KGB offices were surrounded. Also, a large barrel of alcohol was delivered to protect them against the radiation, which has been found in the clothes of some dead bodies. Okay, so the question here is, how can the clothes be radiated in the middle of a mountain? So this raised a lot of questions. Also, a Geiger counter was used to check the radioactive contamination during the search, which is not the usual way to be used in search and rescue missions. These again created a lot of rumors that Russia was testing a parachute mine and it exploded. That is the reason for a fiery object in the sky at that particular night. But that doesn't explain the missing clothes or half-dressed bodies. Again, in science, there is a term called paradoxical dressing or paradoxical undressing. This often happens to people who are affected by severe hypothermia. Once they are affected, they feel suddenly warm and they have to take off their clothes or else they will burn from inside out. This is the sensation that they have. This is called paradoxical undressing. So some of the folks says that this could be the reason why most of the folks were not able, were found in their underwear and missing clothes. Anyhow, after the Soviet collapse, the file belonging to Ivanov and the rest of the establishment were released and created a massive surge in the interest among the people and conspiracy theorists. So Russian government reopened the case in 2019, but said only willing to investigate in 3 possible outcomes. One is avalanche, the second one is slab avalanche, and third one is hurricane. So criminal investigation was excluded as a possibility. Wind speed at that particular night would have caused a hurricane, but the damage done by hurricane was highly unlikely. In 2020, Russia concluded that the official cause of the death was due to an avalanche. This was never the case, as the tent was on the slope, and if an avalanche would have happened, they would have been buried under the snow, but the group cut the tent open from inside out, and the avalanche theory didn't pan out. Also, the footprints, what we initially saw, was steady, meaning other 2 possibilities were highly unlikely. If that is the case, they would have ran towards the forest and not walked in a steady manner. Also, as I said, they were experienced hikers. They would never have camped anywhere near the potential path of an avalanche or hurricane. Also, none of the above would explain the radiations in the clothing or people missing their eyebrows and eyeballs. Even though official cause of death was declared as avalanche, we still don't know what happened that night, and this will probably remain as unsolved mystery. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Please like and subscribe. See you soon with another mystery.